Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Hey Balla. I have a question. I've appreciated all the submitted questions, guys. There's been a lot, so you guys are really excited about the show, so I am very happy. We're going to continue doing this. This is an impromptu one after I got back from Twitch Rivals this morning. And today we have, honestly, kind of my favorite lineup of questions in a little bit. Not that I'm saying the rest of them haven't been good, but I'm really excited about these ones specifically. So, that said, guys, if you're new to the show, this is the show where you guys can submit any questions you want, any generic questions, and we'll try to dive deep into them and try to answer them as best we can and help you guys out. So, with that said, let's already hop into the first question here.
Hey Balla, I have a question. So basically when I'm warming up doing zone wars or 1v1 in my friends, I don't find the problem fast building or going for an extra piece to get an advantage without messing up what I'm trying to do. But when it comes to real games, I always find myself lazy when it comes to executing actions, which leaves me with less opportunities to get kills or have a high ground or survive in general. So what's the best thing I should do in order to force myself away from being lazy when it comes to executing actions?
All right, cool. So I hope that was good. I actually had my audio all the way down when I was listening to it, so that I was all scuffed. So hopefully that was good and it came through good with you. Thank you for the submission, Zilly. So he basically said when it comes to real games, he finds himself really lazy when it comes to executing actions. But when he's comparing it to like performing in creative, when he's playing his friends in 1v1 or whatever, he is fine. He's able to do all sorts of high actions and all that. But when it's real games, he's lazy. So he misses a bunch of stuff, misses opportunities for kills. And yeah, I really like this one because I think this is representative in a lot of people. This is literally the difference between you playing in creative and you playing in real games, right? It's because it's not necessarily about laziness, but I like the way that you put it, right? That you feel lazy. It's not that you're like, oh, I could go for this, but I'm not going to because I don't want to. I mean, in some cases, it might be that, right? In some cases, it might be the fact that you're like, oh, well, this guy's a bot, so I don't have to do all the cool stuff that I've done. So I think this is important for a lot of people to realize is creative skills, you've got to find a way to warm them up and bring them into the real game, and you have to try them in real games. You have to be doing all of the things in real games, no matter what. You watch Booga, and every time he's playing a pub or arena or whatever, no matter what, he's taking that extra wall. No matter what, he's spitting on every single person he's trying to fight. He almost never messes around with people, and if he does mess around with them, he's still being mechanically quick and efficient with all of his movements, all of his edits, all of his builds, right? So, how can we break this habit of being lazy in real games? I think people are recently, this is just practicing mechanics is basically the answer I'm going for, and whether that's actually doing creative 1v1s and stuff like that, or doing edit courses, practicing mechanics as much as possible. If you're not practicing your mechanics at least once or twice a day, I think you are automatically not going to be able to do the things that you want to do in real games, right? So you have to be able to call on that at any point in the game. So do your edit courses. I think people are starting to lean away from edit courses, but edit courses are the way. But don't stay and do the normal edit courses that people have been pushing since, creative first came out, right? Those were great back then, but trust me, they're not enough now. Those edit courses that you used to play, like Speedy's edit course, for example, this is no diss to them. They have great maps. So it's great for warming up back when creative was the thing. But right now, we actually have different needs. We have different skills that we need to be warming up. So you could take those same maps and apply the new concepts to them, right? So what I do right now, I use Raider 464's edit course map, and it's big and extensive. You can do whatever you want, and it has all like fancy, cool edits and whatever. But what I do is actually I do the simple ones. I do like the wall, like just wall edit, all that stuff. But what I do instead, I take everything. So the reason I like Raiders is there's a lot of space. You could place a cone. You could place a floor above the wall. You could place a wall, or you can edit the wall, and then you can place a stair, edit the stair, then edit the wall, place a cone, place a floor. Like all of that stuff is is extra to me. It's not on the map. It's not how it's done, but I need to do that. That is how I keep my hands where they need to be in the game. Because warming up, just editing a wall, or editing cone floor, that is not an actual real application. I never do that in a game, right? I might do it once. Sure, that might help me with that specific thing. But when you warm up, you want to do something that is warming up a broad range of things, right? You don't want to just warm up like just the wall edits, for example. So that's an example of practicing your mechanics. Make sure that the mechanics that you're practicing are focused on things that you need to do in game. All right, but there's still a thing specifically in Fortnite, right? This isn't a thing in most other games, because in most other games your mechanics come out to the forefront like right away. But in Fortnite, there's a lot of downtime where you're not using all those mechanics. There's a lot of downtime, right? Where you're not using your movement skills, you're not using your building skills, you're not using your edit skills. All of these things they're not always being called on, right? It's kind of similar in StarCraft, right? There's a huge buildup before you really need to start super microing your units and a bunch of different units at the same time, because there's that long buildup time. You don't always even have a pump to practice your pump aim, right? Or be warmed up in your pump aim. So that's why you really need to warm up a broad range of things. But you also need to find a way to keep those skills warm throughout a game. A game could last up to 20 minutes before you have to do tunneling, right? Or you could even be playing for 2 hours before you get to practice your tunneling in scrims. So you need to find ways to warm that up while you're playing the game, right? And I think back to watching like Stewie 2K play in CSGO. Like when he's sitting in a spot, he's doing, I don't know if you guys can't see my mouse, but he's flicking it all over the place. He's literally going like this, holding an angle. And every 3 seconds he does this, all right? That helps him keep his aim warm, right? And helps him keep his reaction warm. So find those little quirks. Eric Triceps does the same thing. Actually, we watched his VOD, like his solo squad VOD a long time ago, back in like January, I think. And he does like random little mouse flicks. I'm not suggesting that you do that. Personally, what I do is I take my keyboard, I take my build keys, and I'm literally just going like this. I'm just tapping them, going back and forth, tap, 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 all that stuff. I'm just constantly doing that between my build keys. I'm swinging my pickaxe, all that sort of stuff. Every time I'm farming, I'm flicking to the combo thing. I'm flicking to it. That helps me keep my aim warm. That helps me keep my fingers, these fingers that I used to build a lot. Booga always makes random 360s. Track said in the chat. I don't recall that, but yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Booga does a lot of actual things that's keeping him warm throughout the game, but he's also very, very, yeah. Actually, like when I think about him sitting in box, I can't really think of anything specific that he does where he stays warm. But he also plays a ridiculous amount, which is a different thing, right? If you play a ridiculous amount, sometimes you're just always warm. And that is the state that we all want to get to. Yeah, I think that is important. And then the other aspect, the other way to fix this is VOD review. Yeah, Balla saying VOD review, of course. Like, but hold yourself accountable. That's something that I think we don't do enough in nearly anything. Is hold ourselves accountable for when we are being lazy. When we are being lazy, we need to be like, I died because I was being lazy. Okay, we recognize that. What's the solution? Okay, what's the solution? The solution is almost always for you to practice that specific thing that you were lazy about. If you dived into somebody's box, like you got the cone floor and they got away because you didn't place that extra wall, then you need to go into creative and practice that situation. You need to find yourself in that situation in real games if you can, and practice that situation as much as you can. Okay, that's the solution. But just in general, holding yourself accountable is good. Spotting the mistakes, spotting that you're being lazy, and maybe holding a counter or something like that. Like count every time you're lazy. Every time you died because you forgot to place that extra wall, count, right? Just put another notch. You're gonna see that build up and build up and build up, and you're gonna be like, wow, fuck, like, okay, now I have a mental thing that I'm remembering now. I fucking suck. I suck at this. right? I need to do it. I need to place this extra wall. Okay, I think that answers the question. I think there might be a number of different ways, but those are personally the ways that I think are the most effective. And I think I got to the question. I think there might also be like a different interpretation of this where you're literally, where again, I say you think that you don't need to do the things that you do in creative, in which case you do. And you need to break that attitude. How do you break that attitude? It's by making sure that everything that you're doing, every game that you're playing, you are playing the highest level that you can, right? So don't play stuff that you don't necessarily need to do, or even you can make sure that like if you are fighting bots, if you die to a bot, you can be like, wow, I just died. Like I died to a bot because I was lazy. Again, it's all holding yourself accountable, that sort of thing. Yeah, there's that other aspect. I don't think that's what you were talking about. So I think the beginning all helped you.
Hey Balla, I was wondering, so I've been practicing for about 6 months, but recently I've been doing a lot of VOD review for myself and for the rest of my team, and just really being super critical of a lot of the stuff I do and my team does, and I think that's helped at least give me head information of what I really need to do while playing. But the counter to that is while I play, I become overly critical of my own gameplay and I end up overriding my subconscious. And when you're trying to consciously aim or build or do these different things, you're always going to mess up. So I was wondering if you had any recommendations on not how to be overly critical while you're playing, but then be okay and be super critical of your VOD reviews and your friends' VOD reviews and different things like that. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you for the submission, Pluto. I think it's a very, very wise question. And I like that you already have spotted, right, the fact that you end up in trouble because of your criticism of yourself, right? You spot mistakes or something, or you argue about a decision with yourself because, yeah. And I think this is going to resonate with a lot of people, right? You freeze, essentially, in end games and stuff like that because you either are upset about something that you did or you are trying to recall all the different stuff that you've studied. You kind of end up in that analysis paralysis type of thing. But I think you're more the latter and not the former and not the latter, where you are like getting mad at yourself and also like, and that's affecting your building, your editing, your aiming, just like you said. So I think it's more of that. In which case, that's a tough one, right? You should, again, it's accountability. I don't know if this is a solo issue or a trios issue. If it helps, it probably is the same in both. But within a team, you could always have somebody help you to call you out and to try to keep you positive about your decisions, right? So like, I think that's a big factor of why playing as a team is less frustrating than something in like solos or whatever. Because you can have people help you out, right? If you are being critical of yourself, they can help you and be like, hey, like forget about it. It's the right decision now, okay? And that's something I'm going to repeat because when you're playing the game, forget about whether something was the right or wrong play. You cannot have that you cannot be focused on that. In practice, yes, you can, but I would suggest that you don't because it affects you in a certain way. You should definitely not be thinking that way. You should definitely have a barrier, right? Break the VOD review part of yourself and say that is what we're doing post game. And then during the game, I don't care what mistakes I make until the game is over. Right? I don't care. If I made the wrong decision, if we made the wrong rotate, whatever. We get punished for it, but we have to play the situation that we play. So if there's a way for you to break that and just get rid of that whole aspect of like criticizing yourselves during the game, whether it's solos or trios or whatever, I think that is beneficial. So having people break that with you is important, right? Every time you bring up like, oh, we should have done this, like, oh, it doesn't matter. Like somebody say, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Let's do this. Let's go. Let's move. That's important. But yeah, so and another way that you can break this kind of habit is forming a practice plan where you are specifically doing the VOD review and being critical about yourself in after and before, right? Or even just necessarily after. No. So my ideal world in terms of like a practice plan, here's what it is, right? Whoever's in charge of structuring your practice, it should be individually, each of you, and then there should be somebody in charge of structuring your practice in terms of your team. But individually, the structure, it doesn't matter. So in the beginning of the day, make a plan, right? Make sure everybody's aware of what the plan is, okay? The plan is we're gonna scrim, we're gonna play creative, we're gonna do this, okay? And then you should also have discussion periods after each scrim, for example. What can we improve in each scrim? What was our mistake? What is the solution to that, right? Keep it down to one or two things, right? You don't want to overwhelm yourself unless you have 1 million hours a day to play. And then so just note those down after every scrim. Note what the thing is, like discuss it, note what the thing is, and then move on to the next scrim. Note what the thing is, and possibly if you can come up with a solution on the spot, then move on to the next scrim. At the end of the night, you should discuss what the issues were, right? And discuss what the solutions are going to be, okay? And possibly even practice those solutions if you have time. And then the next day, you should revisit those solutions, practice them if you haven't already, and implement them, and then repeat, right? What are the new issues? Is this solution working the way it is? Always ask that question the next day, right? Once you start implementing the solution to a problem that you had in one scrim, ask yourself, is that solution working? If it's working, then keep improving on it. If it's not working, what's the other solution? Okay? Or why is it not working? Is it because we're not implementing it correctly? So move through that flow. Start working on that flow, because what that's going to do is going to help you separate the criticism time from the game time. Okay? I think that is going to help significantly. I implemented that sort of really, really rigid, structured practice with one of my CS teams, and it worked out really well. We ended up not ever really worried about the issues during practice, and we just played and observed. And sure, we can comment on things like, oh, that didn't really work the way we did, the way we were hoping, right? And so that's important. So maybe you can assign somebody that role in a team and make sure you're doing that for yourself as well. I think would be very, very important. And then during VOD review, don't be so harsh, I would say. Like, I think the harshness is something that you probably have an issue with, like because that's how it's affecting you in game. So when you're in VOD review, don't be so harsh. Just point things out. Don't call yourself stupid. Don't call yourself like an idiot for doing things. It's just what you did. Let's fix it. That's it. So don't be harsh. I'm not sure if that's what's going on. That's just a thing that came to my head, is that I know people who VOD review, and they literally are like, wow, I'm an idiot. I should have done this. Like, okay, well, don't be that way. Just be positive. Just be positive. And then, yeah, I think something that I repeat every episode is focus on the solution, not the problem. And if you do that, even if you were doing that in game, if you're focusing on the solution, not the problem, you'd be in a better state for sure, right? Because the only reason that it's affecting you in game is because you are being critical about yourself, and that is about errors, and you're not thinking about the solution. So think about the solution, not the problem. Okay, cool. That was kind of jumbled thoughts. Sorry about that. I think it still hit the points that I wanted to hit. So I appreciate the submission, Pluto. Hopefully that helps you. We're going to move on to the next question submitted by Jeremy.
Hi, Balla. I play on a low-spec laptop and mouse, and I play on 60 frames, which means I'm behind mechanically, but I make up for that with my game sense. I have $300 in earnings, and if I had a better PC, I feel like I'd immensely improve mechanically. But my parents aren't willing to buy it, and I can't get a job because I'm not old enough yet. So my question is, how do I improve mechanically on a low-spec laptop?
Cool. I got a lot of questions, basically exactly like this. Whether it's like, oh, how can I improve when I'm playing on console? Or how can I improve when I'm playing keyboard and mouse on console? Or how can I improve with a 60 hertz screen or whatever? All that stuff. So you are limited. You are limited. You are 100% limited. But what you can do with your limitations is endless. I specifically think of, is it Milan, the EU kid who played on 60 hertz on a laptop forever and was just like really, really, really good no matter what? Is it Milan? I think it was. So there's so many examples of this in so many different places. In all games, everybody comes from different like setups and all sorts of things. The number one thing I could say, besides the fact that it is a limitation no matter what, right? You are limited. It's a fact. You just have to get through that. So number one thing I'm going to say is do your best to to put whatever setup you have in the best situation possible. So do all the research in terms of FPS tricks. Do all the research in how to optimize your game, right? In order to be the best. I don't know how serious that can be on console. I don't know how deep that can go on console, but do as much research and fixes as possible, right? That's so important. Set all your graphics settings to low, right? Figure out your driver settings. Make sure you're using the updated drivers. Whatever you can do for like getting the best speed out of your CPU, right? Can you plug in another monitor, right? Most of my suggestions are located about or are focused around like improving within what you have, but it's also obviously a suggestion to improve. Like, can I get a monitor connected to my laptop that can run 144 hertz? And hopefully my graphics card on my laptop can do that. I think that is like the number one thing you should try to do, both hardware and in your software, in your PC itself, in your console itself. Try to optimize the game to as big as possible. Use launch options, use all that stuff. I know console is so limited in that aspect, so it feels bad. Feels really bad, but you can still do things like, I don't know, this probably doesn't help at all, but like keep your hard drive empty and stuff like that, and verify your cache on your game all the time, and keep like that sort of shit. Like console sucks in that regard, and it's in a bad state. So unfortunately, you're limited in that case. What else? Like do the cheaper things that you can do, right? Can you get a extra I don't know how it works on controllers, guys. I'm sorry, I'm not a controller guy. Can you do something with like get an extra paddle or get a new controller or clean your controller for PCs? Like make sure you have a mouse pad, right? Make sure you have space. Do you have the right space? That sort of thing helps too. Like your just general setup. It doesn't have to be your PC exactly. Yeah. Console has turn off replays. There's something you can do. There's not much, but it's something. So all that stuff, like all the stuff that you can do as much as you can to improve your setup and your optimization of the setup. But you can still do stuff in game, right? So how do I improve mechanically on a low spec laptop? You can just be the biggest grinder in terms of mechanics on your laptop. That's it. Just grind more than everybody else. You're still playing the same game. Just grind more than anybody else. And I think that is the story for most of these people who have success on low spec laptops. Remember, one of the things with like 60 hertz and stuff like that is that you're used to that. That's the only thing you've ever played. Okay. And it's going to feel fine. It feels fine for you in most cases. All right. But there's going to be situations where if you move to 144 hertz and then you try to play back on 60 hertz, you end up in trouble. So you are fine with what you have, clearly. So yes, practice mechanically. That's the biggest thing you can do is just grind as much as possible. Your setup is your setup. You can't change anything about it. Get out of your attitude that if you had this and that, then you'd be better. I know I know that's something that a lot of people have in their thoughts, but like, just forget about it. It doesn't matter. This is what you have. This is the same thing that I say with the game, right? We're regardless of the game state, we're playing it, right? So who cares whether there's a freaking stuff? Well, there's stuff. It's always stuff. There's always something. But who cares? We're still playing the game, so figure out how to deal with it. Okay. Get it out of your head that you'd be miles better with the laptop, because if you have that in your head, really you're limiting your process when you even get that. When you do finally get an upgraded laptop or upgraded computer or whatever, you're going to end up being like, well, I don't actually know how to practice, because you had in your head all this time that you could be so much better with a better PC, right? So make sure you still have a structured practice regimen. Don't use your computer as an excuse to practice the best and most efficiently. Go back to the last question we just talked about, right? Make sure you don't use it as an excuse for that. But what else? Like, use your earnings, right? You had a little bit of earnings, Jeremy. You're not old enough to work, but that does not necessarily mean that you aren't old enough to earn money from your parents, right? So like allowances and stuff like that. I don't know if that's a solution for you. It could be, or even working for like neighbors or something like that, mowing some lawns or something. I don't know. There's ways to make money. Stream, right? Possibly you can get some people to donate, something like that. There's ways to make money. Obviously don't beg, but try to earn some money. Do some editing for somebody. Do some use your skills to make money, not just your game skills, but everybody has skills. So try that. I don't know if that's an avenue you can go down. Hopefully it is, because that would solve your issue. But again, make sure that you aren't using this as an excuse to hold your real practice regimen back. Okay, I think that's the biggest thing. All right. Let's move on to, we only have one more question. I needed this to be a shorter episode. So we got one more question from Fakey. Here it is.
Hey, how do I stop myself from panicking when I'm in a 1v1, either in a box fight or build fight, or, just make myself stop whiffing shots and misplacing builds? Thank you very much.
Okay, how do I stop myself from panicking during build fights and box fights, which causes me to whiff shots and miss builds? Yeah, I like it. Who has the feeling that when they get pressured, or whether they're in an end game or something like that, and they just get nervous? They get this pit in their stomach, right? Who gets that? Right? I used to get that, and in fact, I still do every once in a while, right? I still personally, because I don't have the opportunity to play as much as I normally do, I still get nervous in end games when I haven't played for 2 weeks, for example. It's like, crap, I'm finally in an end game. Like, let me do this. For some people, it goes away. For some people, it doesn't. I'm going to say for most people, it does, right? When you experience those situations hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times, when you are there over and over and over and over, you are going to erase that. That's how it works for me. When I'm constantly put myself in those situations, I noticed this first when I played 1.6. Whenever I was in a clutch situation, I would shake. I'd literally be so shaky. But that did not stop me from always missing my shots and whiffing my shots, because I still had that mechanical base that I could build from. Sure, it might not have been the best, but I still could clutch up. I could still clutch up while nervous. All right, and so that's something that I think it's a little harder in this game. Like we talked about, this is a kind of a similar question to the first one, where we talked about just grinding in your mechanics and being prepared in all sorts of situations so that when the time comes, you're ready to use them. But in this case, right, it's grinding away the nerves. Ceases in chat, and he's one of the most clutch players. He says he gets nervous still every end game, even, which is normal, right? And the reason for that is because there's so little opportunity to actually experience that end game, that real end game, where you can't get rid of the butterflies. You think Cease is no? I think he's serious, and even if he's not, who cares? Whatever. There's people who have this issue. That's so practicing an end game is where you will need to do. For example, you're saying build fights and box fights, which makes sense to me too, right? Just keep getting these build fights and box fights. The butterflies are going to go away, but while in the meantime, to be able to build that mechanical base. Grind mechanics. I've said this like 4 times this episode. Maybe this is why I like this episode a lot. This is why I picked all these questions, is because I liked all the mechanical answers to them. Yeah. Just grind the mechanics as much as possible. Grind. Do simulations on build fights, right? Do those simulations. Force yourselves into build fights. Go into arena and force yourself to build fight people. Don't hide away from the build fights. If you get nervous in build fights, you are not going to not get nervous if you are running away from build fights. If you are boxing up every time there's a build fight. Or if you're shockwaving away, dang punk. If you're shockwaving away every fight, then you're going to get nervous because you're scared of fights. Don't do that. What else? This is something I said on Hotline FN when people were like, oh, everybody who's not used to LAN is going to crumble because they're not used to LAN. They're going to be super nervous. They're going to be super, super nervous. And yeah, that's true. Okay. I guarantee Booga was nervous at World Cup. Actually, we could basically see it in the first game. We could basically see it. But he has such a strong mechanical base that no matter the nerves, he's going to be able to overcome it because it's just muscle memory for him. Literally just muscle memory. Okay? It's literally just muscle memory. So just grind. All those mechanics. No matter what. Even if you're nervous, you're not going to perform at the peak, but your peak is going to be so high that even if you're performing 10% lower, you're still better than the person you're fighting. Get there. That would be a really good way to do it. Really good way to do it. And then the last thing about this question that I think is worth mentioning is the fact that there's different stages of nerves and competition, right? So I might never, ever get nervous in a pub, like ever, even if I haven't played in forever. I will never get nervous in a pub anymore, right? But in a scrim, I still might get nervous if I traveled for a little while and I haven't played any scrims in like 3 weeks or something like that. I come back, I get nervous in a scrim again. But then I play a couple scrims and it's like, okay, well, whatever. It's just a scrim. Just a scrim. That's it. And then in tournaments, I get nervous. Until I'm at my 10th game. It's like, okay, whatever. It's just the last game. We've done this. Grind that into your head. We've done this. We've been here. We've build fought before. We have box fighted before. We've played this end game millions of times. Put that in your head. Just tell yourself that. If you're nervous, tell yourself that. I've been here. Okay? And visualize the fact that you've been here. But there's those different levels. So you could play all the tournaments in the world. But once you stepped on that World Cup stage, I don't care how many tournaments you've been in, you're probably still nervous. Probably still nervous because you haven't played on a stage of that magnitude with the stakes that high. So you're probably still nervous. There's probably very few. There's probably 1 or 2 people who are on that stage who are completely not nervous, no matter what, right? I doubt there was anyways, because I don't think there's anybody who's had that experience in competitive Fortnite, like at all. So the different stages matter too, right? When you're gonna feel it again, is basically my point. If you're playing pubs and you fix the nervousness in build fights and box fights, when you go to a tournament setting, you're gonna feel it again. You got to get used to that feeling. You have to get used to that feeling of panic and nervousness. And missing a shot and making sure that you don't like tilt because you missed a shot, right? It's all good. You missed a shot, whatever. You missed a build, whatever. You got chunked because you made a mistake mechanically. Oh well, like whatever. Don't get tilted. Just move forward. You know it can happen. It can happen to anybody. That's why I don't like when I'm VOD reviewing, I don't like pointing out like, oh, you missed a shot. Oh, because it's a mechanical thing that it happens. You hit 80% of the shots or something like that. You have a certain accuracy. And the other thing is confidence. That's the last thing, right? Just tell yourself you're better than every single one of the people that you're going to run up against in anything that you play. You are better than them. I don't care if it's true or not. You're just better than them. Have that confidence. You don't have to be a dick about it. You don't have to go to everybody and be like, I'm so much better than you. But yeah, you should think yourself that you are better than anybody who you will fight. Exactly. Have that attitude. Anything I'm missing? I don't think so. I think that answered the question. Have an ego. Yep, basically have an ego. Exactly. All right, guys. That's going to be it for these questions. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you do like this series, make sure you're submitting questions. It's down in the description below. Or if you're in Twitch chat, !hey Balla is where the Google form is that you can submit your voice question on Vokaroo. I don't look at any of the text ones. I'm sorry, guys. I know there's a lot of you guys who type in a question, but I don't look at it because I can't use it on the show without having that interactive feeling. But yeah, if you like it, subscribe to all the things on my social media, and we'll be back with more content just like this. Peace.